One of the first qualities of a warrior is courage. You want to live your life from now on with courage. That most people take their talents, abilities, and skills to the grave with them because of lack of courage. And courage is not the lack of fear. Courage is the willingness to do what it is you need to do, what you are called to do, in spite of the fear. You don't want to live a fear-driven life because you're depriving yourself, your family, and the world that you came here to do something. That's why we're told constantly in the book of life, be of good courage. Because there's stuff that's going to happen that requires that you have courage, that you stand up inside yourself and face it and handle it. Most people in a fearful situation, they forget everything and run, but there are few that in a fearful situation, they face everything and rise with courage. And that's who you are. That's why you're listening to me now, because there's something you want to do. And when you're going outside of your comfort zone, it takes courage. Most people, the majority of people, die within their comfort zone. They're not risk takers. They go through life trying to play it safe. Let me share something with you. There's no safe position in life. If we don't know anything else, if we have not learned anything else from the coronavirus, there's no safe position in life. You can't get out of life alive. You got to die to leave here. And so this is a time that you want to live your life full and do the things that you think about. Sure, you want to keep social distancing from people and from particularly toxic, negative, energy draining people. You want to keep social distance from them. Why? Because people rub off on you. But you're here to do the greater work. You're here to do something. You got to live life like you mean it. When I decided to speak, I went at it hard because I didn't want to be just a speaker. I wanted to be a speaker that stood out, that made a national and global impact. And you can do that too. That's why you're listening to me. You have some talent, you have some knowledge, you have some experiences. You've seen some stuff. And there's some things in you don't want to take to your grave with you. So when you live like a warrior, you live courageously. You're fearless.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with the Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Les Brown, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, live full, die empty.
I don't know where you align with what you want to do in terms of your life and your goals and your dreams, but I say what Dr. Miles Monroe said, live full, die empty, keep social distancing, do the things you need to do to stay alive, listen to the scientists and not people who become internet scientists or Google scientists. Listen to the real scientists and make decisions that will keep you and your family safe. That's what's most important right now. And not just be consumed by the distractions that are going on. Life will always be full of distractions. Dimple said, if it ain't one thing, it's another. I said, if it ain't one thing, it's 12 others. And so during the adversities of where we are and what we are facing, you want to have some things that you're doing that will give you the tools, the mindset, the mental resolve to handle whatever life throws at you. Why, Les? Because whatever life throws at you, you have in you. Greater is he that's in you than he that's in the world. You have in you to handle it. You have built-in greatness. You have built-in power, authority, and dominion to handle whatever life throws at you. And life is going to be throwing a lot of stuff. Nobody's going to be spared. That's why Viktor Frankl called it unavoidable suffering. But suffering is a choice. You have a choice because you can suffer or you can choose to do whatever you need to do to liberate yourself, whatever you need to do to reinvent yourself, whatever you need to do to get the help that you need to overcome whatever you are stuck in right now.
Rule number 3, use the power of imagination.
The biggest challenge I had to overcome, and it's a continuous challenge, is allowing myself to see myself beyond my circumstances and mental conditioning, to live out of my imagination rather than my history. When you are raised in a culture that constantly demean you, marginalize you, and stifle your potential to move forward. I remember reading a quote by a guy named Richard Wright, who said, "The impulse to dream has been slowly beaten out of me through the experiences of life." So just imagine in 1963, when I graduated from high school, now that's a long time ago. my grandson said, "Grandpa, how old are you?" And I said, 75. He said, "You are old." In 1963, here's what the statistics were in 1963. That if you're an African American, you're the last hire and the first fire. If you're an African American, that a white college trained Black person has less of a chance of getting a job than a white high school dropout. That's in 1963. Wow. According to the Federal Reserve, that still exists. So just imagine when an African American graduates from college and in debt, that a white high school dropout today will earn more money, 3 times more money than that Black college graduate. 3 times more, all right? Why? Because of his paint job. I'll never forget, Louis, I saw an interview with Larry King, and this white supremacist was being interviewed. And he said, "Tell me, why do you hate Black people?" He said, "Because they're Black." So, and he said, "And?" He said, "And I'm white." So Larry said, "What did you have to do with that?" And this white supremacist said, "What?" He said, "What did you have to do with your being born white?" And he didn't have an answer. He just got quiet. And Larry, in that question, that strategic question, it created an aha moment, hopefully, for that young man. I saw this video yesterday. This lady said, "I've got grandchildren. I hate y'all, and I'm teaching my grandchildren to hate you too."
Wow.
Yes, and I'll never forget when I was on a bus coming back from Miami Beach with my mother, and they had signs on Miami Beach that said, "Jews, dogs, and coloreds not allowed." And so I asked my mother, I said, "Mama, why do they hate us so much?" And she said, "Leslie, I don't know, but don't you ever be like them. Don't you ever be like them. God is love. And he who dwelleth in love dwelleth in God and God in them." You love people regardless of how they treat you.
Rule number 4, find a mentor.
What we have to do is realize you can't read the label when you're locked in the box. That's why it's important, the work that you and Carol are doing. You have to have somebody with a trained eye, somebody with experience that can take you to a place in yourself that you can't go by yourself because you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And just think about sporting teams. When a team loses, they don't fire the team. They fire the coach. Why? Because that coach can get something out of them that they can't get out of themselves, regardless how talented they are. Michael Jordan, considered one of the greatest basketball players of all times. Michael Jordan has won some championships, but he never won them without Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson has won championships, but he's won them without Michael Jordan. So you have to have a coach, someone that can see what you can't see and be able to call it out, to extract it. I had a lady tell me she didn't have any story. When I finished with her, oh my goodness, her story was breathtaking.
Yeah.
I said, baby, look here, I don't smoke, I don't drink, but I need some reefer up in here. I said, my goodness, this is just too much. Sometimes you think you got some problems, you listen to somebody else's problems and say, you know what? I'm fine.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, develop your mind.
Reading those, he said, if you want to become successful, number 1, develop your mind. And he was a fan of Earl Nightingale, that you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. The strangest secret in the world. I've listened to that so many times, I've wore it out. And then the other thing he said, develop your mind. Next thing he said, practice OQP, only quality people. Surround yourself with people that you can learn from, people that have more than you, people that will help you to grow mentally and emotionally and financially and spiritually. And the next thing he said, which is the master key to opening up new worlds for you, is your ability to communicate. Because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. And I believed him, and I followed that. I never forget when I was in Poland, and I was in this stadium, and I saw my name up, and people started chanting when they saw me coming through the tunnel. And I said, Mr. Washington, this one is for you, sir. You know, he's gone. He's been gone. I eulogized him. I said, I'm going to make you proud today, because it was my first time speaking in Poland, you know. And so, but I so admired him. I've never known my father or birth mother, but that the ability to connect with people that are strangers to you and can create a shift in their lives and how they see themselves, to have that sacred opportunity to share your story and distract, dispute, and inspire them to realize, as the play Lion King, Simba, you are more than that which you have become. That's what you do every day, up in here.
Rule number 6, take time for yourself.
One thing that I'm encouraging you to do, that I'm doing, is I'm taking time to work on me and to get to know more about me. Because if you don't know who you really are, as opposed to the kind of person you were before the world got its hands on you, if you don't know that, and you've bought into the culture that is designed to destroy your sense of self, when you don't have a sense of self, when you don't have a strong identity, that takes away your purpose and the meaning of your life. And that puts you on a path of self-destructive behavior. That's why you see so many young people, and you look at it and say, you know what? Aliens do exist, and they don't know how to pull their pants up. So as you look at yourself, take the time and ask yourself, as you are living this life that you're living, is this me? Is this working for me? You ever been in a relationship that the relationship was working for the other person, but it wasn't working for you? You were in a relationship with somebody that's always there when they need you, but when you need them, they can't be found. It's a time for self-awareness. It's a time to elevate your relationships and your knowledge and your skills and the value that you bring. New beginnings. We always have a choice. every day represents something that we can claim and say, I'm going to make the rest of my life the best of my life. Hey, it is true that we have at any moment in our lives, we can change directions. I was upset about something, and my business partner, he said to me, don't get angry, just be decisive. Don't get angry. Somebody betrayed my trust, somebody that I loved and believed in and had their back, and I thought they had mine, and it did not happen that way. Has that ever happened to you? And so I had to rethink the relationships that I have. And I had to ask the question, who can I count on and who should I count out? Because at the end of the day, this thing called life is like an elevator. The higher you go up, you have to stop and let some people off. Who is it in your life, as you just think about it right now, that you need to open the door for and stand there until you get off? So that they don't cramp your style, so that they don't toxify and pollute your mind with their toxic behavior. Yeah, we have to promise ourselves to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We pray as if everything depends upon God, but work as if everything depends upon us. Those are the words of Mary McLeod Bethune. You have something special, a time for new beginnings, to do inventory of yourself, to get access to the unlimited potential that's waiting for you to tap into it. As Dr. Miles Monroe would say, to rob the cemetery of your dreams, of your gifts, of your leadership, of your books, of your music. Yeah, you're here for a reason. There's something that would not be here. You're a missing piece of the puzzle. God needed your presence here at this point in time for our children and our children's children and for generations yet unborn. The time for new beginnings. What a blessing. We're here all because of God's grace and mercy. I say to you, honor yourself by looking at your life, taking personal inventory, and be honest with yourself. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Rule number 7, learn something new.
People always asking me, what did you do differently than others, the thousands of other speakers out here that allowed you to become a national and an international voice of motivation and greatness? And part of the process is I decided I wanted something new for myself. I wanted something new for my family. And I wanted to be able to control my own destiny. I didn't want to be a volunteer victim. We've been conditioned, we've been trained for a job. Things have changed. You got to be an entrepreneur now. You want to create something that you can control. You want to create and have something that you determine how much you're worth, not somebody else determining that. And today you have to live life like you mean it. This is no time that things have changed. We've got to change. We've got to change and with a fierceness, because that's what it is. That the things that are dramatic and the millions of people that are emboldened and determined to hold you down, we've got to be stronger than them and more determined than them. Everybody can use this. What I'm going to talk about today, the value of improving yourself and working on yourself. One of the deciding factors, I was working on a job and I asked in advance, could I go on vacation? I followed the guidelines. And at that time, it was like 2 to 3 weeks. I asked. And when the time came, they told me no. And I asked the general manager, why? Look, I did it within the parameters of what you've laid out for me. Why are you telling me no? You know what he said? Because I can. Whoa. And if you go, you won't have a job when you get back. Now, this is why it's important to work harder on yourself than your job. Because he knew I have a family. He knew I had car note, mortgage note. He knew I needed the money. He knew that I just couldn't go out and get a job making the kind of money that I was making there because I had not been working on a transition skill. I had not been working on developing myself. I was putting more time and more effort on the job than myself. I'm not talking to you about something that I don't know. I'm 75 years young. And so I got an attitude. And see, it's not enough to get an attitude and get upset. I put that energy into learning something new. I was like Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being sick and tired, to the extent I wanted to be my BYOB, my own boss. I wanted to be my own boss. And so I decided to learn something new. You want to learn something new in this environment where millions of jobs are being lost because of the coronavirus. And over 47 million jobs are projected to be lost because of artificial intelligence. This is a new era. It's called the end of work. The end of work. Things are going to be automated. Even jobs like being a waiter or working in McDonald's. There's some across the country. There are no people in there. Banks, you can go in. You used to see a lot of people in a bank. I went into a bank the other day. There's only one person there, a long line. Why? They've been replaced through technology. Hello? Put voice in the comment section and learn how to do something that's you. John H. Johnson, who, with a $500 loan from his mother, built a $4 million empire. He said something I always keep in mind. There's no defense against an excellence that meets a pressing public need. What's pressing today, Les, that I have? Do you have a story? Have you overcome some stuff? Have you made some mistakes? Have you gone through a divorce? Have you had some setbacks, some failures, and you got through it? You survived? It's a pressing public need. How you got through that becomes a survival guide for people that's struggling with that right now. That's what it is. Your story is powerful. That's why Steve Jobs said the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world. And so the key to today, making it today, with all the uncertainty, what's major is to have your mind focused. Now, you want to keep social distancing from people. Don't join the crazies now. This coronavirus, it does not play. You want to respect this. My grandchildren came over. Hey, Papa. They're looking upstairs. Hey, Papa, I love you. Here's a virtual hug. I love you very much. Here's a kiss on the head. No! This thing ain't playing, and we shouldn't play. And don't play with your future. You take charge of your future. Learn something new. Learn something new. And don't take forever to do it. Learn it from somebody who's accomplished and achieved what it is you want to achieve in the area that you love, that's you. Life is too short and unpredictable to spend 8 or 60 hours a week doing something that's not you just to survive. Get an attitude to say, I'm not going out like this. And that's what I did.
Rule number 8, commit to greatness.
Commitment is major. See, when you decide that you're going to do something, when you commit yourself to live a life that's different than the life that you lived in 2020, you hold yourself to a higher standard. you're seeking something. You're pushing the envelope. You are challenging yourself. You are willing to walk by faith and not by sight. And you know, as a warrior, that there's a dramatic difference between being a warrior and being a worrier. Anybody can worry, and a lot of people are worried right now. Oh, the new virus coming, and it's even more lethal and spreads easier. Okay, got that. All right. And you got to eat. You got to pay the rent. Got to pay the mortgage. Got to pay the car note. I learned a long time ago the best way to get back on your feet is to miss 3 car payments. Come on. Yeah. But you don't want to be reckless. You don't want to die for a job. No. If somebody asks you, hey, sign here, and in the event you get sick, you go on sue us. Do I look like Mr. Kadumbo? No. Create something else. Life is saying no. Don't put your life on the line saying, oh, I got to eat. I could either starve to death or I sign this and risk dying and leaving my family so they can starve without me. No. You can create something else. You have other options. Don't be limited in your thinking. I did that for years. Because I knew radio. I did it extremely well. And when I was fired, I was dumbfounded. What am I going to do now? Guess what? Learn something new. That's what. If you're willing to learn. See, most people aren't willing to learn. That's why I say, well, if I don't sign this agreement, my family will die. They'll just starve to death. Are you kidding me? Come on now. No. Don't sign anything that says that if you get sick, they're not liable, because they know that there's a high risk that you might get sick and they want you to be on your own. If you don't learn anything else, remember the name Herman Cain, who was sitting on the front row at a rally. Proud, no mask. We got back to Atlanta. We had to go to the hospital. He said, no big deal. And now he's out of here 5 days later. They don't even mention his name. You talk about proud and involved on radio every day, promoting the right. They don't mention his name as if he did not exist. Come on. This life is challenging us. In life, when you don't have enough courage or insight, intelligence, expanded vision, that you have outgrown a situation and it's time to move on, life moves on you.
Rule number 9, believe.
My daughter asked me, what was the most difficult part of earning your first million? And I said, to believe that I could do it with no college education, to believe, no business experience, to believe that I can compete with people in the same market with PhDs and MBAs and more intelligence and a little pinky finger than I have in my whole body, that I could compete and become a dominant force and be able to get my piece of the pie, to believe that I can do it. They did this study, and the study indicated what was the common denominator of top business people and leaders, and they discovered 85% got to where they were because of mindset, attitude, 15% because of strategy. So your mindset, mental resiliency, how did you get back? How did you come back from abusing yourself in so many ways, and you're still here? And now you are taking your pain and created purpose. You are helping people who are stuck in that place where you once were and sharing with them, if you want to get out of there, there's nothing as powerful as a made up mind. Stay away from the people, the places, and things. You want to get out of there? Listen to what I'm saying to you. Make the decision. We make decisions, and our decisions make us.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is go from believing to knowing.
The biggest challenge that you face is going from believing to knowing. That's the place that you go to. I went into the Georgia Dome. I did not believe I could command an audience of 80,000 people. Mike Williams, my mentor, who wrote the book called The Road to Your Best Stuff, he was there with me. He said, Brownie? And I said, yes. And he saw my hands trembling. He said, look at me, Brownie. I said, yes. He said, you can do this. And when he said that, I knew it. And I said, thank you, Mike. And they gave me the microphone. That's the last thing I remember. I don't remember giving this speech, but here's what I knew. I can do this. He said, speak from your heart. And I was working with a young man the other day, an incredible voice. And he had memorized his script. And I said, I want you to give me this again. And I want you to know you can do this. You don't need this script. We're talking about your life. And I want you to speak from this place of knowing. And his whole countenance changed. And he gave it from his heart. And it was not the training he had got. It was very mechanical. You know, the Dale Carnegie course, which is a great course, said, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them.
Tell what you told them. Yeah. What I learned in Toastmasters also, yeah.
Yeah, and I said, no. Mike Williams taught me, my mentor, Brownie, never let what you want to say get in the way of what your audience wants to hear. Conduct communications intelligence. Find out who they are. And then speak to that. Find their sweet spot and focus on that. And so I asked him some key questions about his life, to find out about his character and how he came to be the person that he is now. And Martin Seligman, in the book called Learned Optimism, he said between the ages of 0 and 5, we develop permanent personality characteristics. And there's a voice in our heart that says yes or it says no. And there are behaviors that follow us for the rest of our lives. And what came up for him, his father was a very kind guy and a very strong man, military man. He loved him, but he didn't. The father didn't know how to show the love. I said he did the best that he knew how. And I said, I want you to find the good. Let's focus on the good of what that experience was like. This man who was very regimented, very structured. Tell me some good things that you remember. And first he was very tense. And then he started thinking about it. His body relaxed. He said, my father, he could fix some real good hot water cornbread. I said, is that right? I said, my mother could make a good sweet potato pie so good you can't eat it with your shoes on. You have to kick shoes off so you can wiggle your toes. That's what my father's cornbread was like. And I got a whole different personality out of him, that other part of his personality, without a script. And I said, I want you to speak from that place of love. Let's work from that place. And we threw the script in the trash can. And now, man, when he speaks, I'm like a little kid because I'm a groupie, man, for great speakers. And I was crying like a little baby. I said, you did it. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, I hear your footsteps, but I'm not afraid of you. I'm not scared, okay? Just think about if you were an immigrant and you're watching television and you see people who can come from white cultures with no problems whatsoever, like the president's in-laws, but brown people coming from other countries, they're separated from their children and put in cages and there's a silence. There's not millions of people protesting and saying, this is not who we are as a country. This is inhumane. I believe that all of us have a responsibility that we want to live a life that will outlive us. The work that you're doing. There are people that you will never meet, whose lives that you've transformed, that you're living a life that will outlive you. Just think about the fact that this program has given a lot of people hope, and there's hope in the future. It gives you power in the present. Every 40 seconds, someone commits suicide. But because of something you say or some guests that you've invited, and as they share their story, you interrupt that story of being hopeless and powerless and not wanting to be here anymore. And because they took the time to watch, you create an experience. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was. And so at the end of the program, at the end of one of your presentations, there are people who, because of you, their lives will be transformed, and they will become a pencil, as Mother Teresa would say, in the hand of God, and start writing a new chapter with their lives. I always do a needs assessment. When I'm training speakers, I tell them, don't assume you know. Each audience is a different type of personality. Each area of industry, if you want to go big, if you want to speak globally, you want to become an expert on the audience. You got to learn and you got to study them so that you can have the versatility and flexibility to speak to any type of audience with your story and be able to transform them individually and collectively. And that impact will drive your income and your requests. The average speaker get around 25 to 30 requests a year. I get over 3,000 because of using that principle. And many of the speakers that I've trained now, and some of them have passed me using the same technique and strategies and have made millions of dollars. In life, what we're doing right now, it is, to me, an experiment with life. There's so much noise in this world. And most people never achieve their goals because of the noise, because it is so distracting. One of my students, her name is Stacy N.C. Grant, and she wrote a book called Action, Despite the Distractions. And so what most people do, they stop and they look around. The reason that Lot was saying, don't look back, is because you become paralyzed when you allow yourself to be distracted and seduced by the noise of life, that you have to discipline yourself. The road to life is straight and narrow, and few there be that find it, because few there be that are willing to focus their minds. Where focus goes, energy flows. Few there be that are willing to discipline themselves. And as a result, most people allow their dreams, their potential, their goals to be derailed because they take their eyes off of what it is that they're after.
How do you build that resilience? So maybe by the time you get to cancer, you've already done so much work. So I get maybe how that one you're protected by the mechanisms you've built. But in the beginning, how did you crawl out from under the labels that people were putting on you?
The easiest thing I've done was to get out from under the labels and to live the life that I live. The most difficult thing I've ever done was to believe that I can do it.
What's the difference?
The difference is that when you don't know what's impacting you, and it's something that's holding you down and you're not aware of it. The great anthropologist Margaret Mead was in a restaurant in London, and a guy was serving her and said, "There's several Americans here tonight." And she said, "Is that right?" "Yeah." So let me know when you serve them dessert. I'll tell you exactly how many are here. He said, "Oh, you couldn't possibly." And so he came back and said, "Okay, I've done it." And she got up and she walked around and she came back and she said, "There are around 25 here." And he looked at the roster. "How did you know that?" Say, "In America, we eat differently from you when we eat a dessert. You eat it from the crust toward the tip. We eat it
from the tip toward the crust. When you eat a slice of pie, how do you eat yours?
Definitely, yeah, from the tip back to the crust, for sure.
Yeah, okay, and so there are things that when you, in my situation, when you live in a dominant culture that is designed to destroy your sense of self and your belief in yourself, and you have to learn ways in which you can begin to connect with this power that you have within yourself to handle where you are. The key is to be constantly in a perpetual process of discovering the truth of who you are and fighting constantly to look for ways in which you can escape the inner conversation. I speak to audiences around the world, and I train speakers as well, and I tell them that when you speak, that there's an objective that you want to achieve when you speak to an audience, because how people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. So you as a speaker, when you speak in this program, when people see you, what you do is distract, dispute, and inspire. You distract people from their current story with your guests and the questions that you ask. Through the process of the ongoing questioning and the way in which they respond and the things they have learned, you dismantle their current belief system and inspire them to create a new chapter with their lives. And so, but that's an ongoing process of constantly interrupting that conversation, what psychologists call your self-explanatory style, because life is going to beat up on you in so many ways, and many things, they come back, negative thoughts and how you feel about yourself, they don't die. They come back once you stop doing the maintenance work on your mind. Responsibility to me it's about understanding and knowing that you have the power to control your destiny, that it's about living your life from a place of creation, that most people go through life doing what I call living their lives as volunteer victims. When you take responsibility for your life, it's about knowing that you have to develop yourself, that you don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. You have to develop your mind, you have to develop your skills, you have to have a talent, ability that you are cultivating so that you can create value for the world with what it is you have, with your gift. The key to being a loser.
Yeah. Very important.
Is not loving and appreciating yourself.
Okay.
And allowing what other people think of you become more important to you than what you think of yourself.
Wow. It's a new advice. Great key.
Yeah. That we were born to do something. You're here to do a work. The two most important moments in our lives, it's been said, the day that we're born and the day that we realize why we were born. And if you don't know, if you want to live a life of misery, don't try and find out. But if you want to live a life that has meaning and value and a sense of direction, spend as much time as you possibly can to answer the question, why am I here? And not
so you wonder yourself a lot of time.
Yes, and don't ask what is the meaning of life. Ask what is the meaning of my life? What am I supposed to do? What is this work that I was chosen, that God saw something in you, that you were chosen 1 out of 400 million sperm. He saw something in David. What was it that he saw? He saw something in Judy. He saw something in Les. There was something that caused us to be here. And I believe there's a work for us to do, that there's something that if we don't do it, that the world will be deprived. And finding out what that something is, that element, the element is when what you love to do and what you were born to do come together that will allow you to show up in life in a bigger way. One, we have to believe in ourselves, and that's an ongoing process, engaging in things that will help us to believe in ourselves, because we are cultivated in a world where we're told more about our limitations rather than our potential. And so faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. And so we have to constantly go to seminars, go to workshops, listen to audio programs, and read books that will help to expand our vision of ourselves, of what's possible for us.
Talk to me about the value of having a coach and having a mentor.
I'm glad you asked that question because my children, they don't understand. Daddy, why do you pay Mike Williams money every month as a coach? You're Les Brown. You've selected among the top 5 speakers in the world. You're recognized as number 1. You earn $70,000 an hour when you speak in the United States. You earn 225,000 pounds when you speak outside of the United States. Why do you pay him every month? And I said, Serena Williams is the most dominant tennis player on the planet, and she never goes out on the court without her coach because you can't read the label when you're locked in the box. You don't even want someone coaching you unless they have a coach. And I have that. I have a coach because there are things that a coach can see that you can't see when you're under fire, when you're going through the stuff. And you have to have somebody with a trained eye and experience that you've developed a collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationship with that will allow you to navigate the storms of life. And when life staggers you, that can help you get back in the game again and do the rope-a-dope and Muhammad Ali shuffle. Part of what allowed me to break through that the speaking industry was a good old boys network, and they were going around, the speakers were giving speeches and regurgitating information, as you are aware, from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yes.
Well, my mentor, Mike Williams, who wrote the book called The Road to Your Best Stuff, The Road to Your Best Stuff. He said, Brownie, if information could change people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy.
Yes.
Yeah, so what I do and how I train speakers is to use your story to create an experience. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it can never be satisfied to going back to where it was. So you attract the attention, and with an experience that you create, the experience of your customer, the experience that you're able to create, and that interaction with the people that you want to attract, that you then direct that attention. And there's a reason that Steve Jobs said the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world. And he knew that. Here's a guy to talk about a product, and people have set up camp outside the store for 2 and 3 days, sleeping outside to get something they haven't laid hands on. They just heard the story about it. Khalil Gibran, in the book called The Prophet, he said, more than thirst and hunger, humans need stories. The biggest leadership gap in our generation is the unwillingness by the majority of people to see the value of perpetually learning. That we have to be willing to commit ourselves to what Alvin Toffler talked about, to unlearn, learn, and relearn. Because today, innovation creates new ignorance. And new ignorance can only be eliminated by education. Knowledge is the new currency. And so as we look at ourselves, look at our goals and dreams, we must continuously upgrade our knowledge so that we can stay ahead of artificial intelligence.
To me, success is living a life of service. It's thinking about how is it that my life can be an instrument to leave the world in better shape than how I found it. It's what is it that I can do, that I can give to others, that I bring? If it's my music, if it's my artwork, if it's my words, if it's living a life of a Mother Teresa, if it's one of a Winston Churchill, if it's a President Barack Obama, it's about making an impact with your life. To me, of being of service to humanity. That to me. Doing something that's a passion of yours, that you feel in your heart. Where the heart is, there your treasure is also. That to me is living a life of success.
The imagination is a preview of what's to come. And so as a kid, I dreamed a lot.
about taking care of my mother. I used to go with her to work to clean homes, and she kept her children, and she cooked for these wealthy families. My mother could bake a sweet potato pie so good you couldn't eat it with your shoes on. You had to take your shoes off so you could wiggle your toes. And I used to look at these big, beautiful mansions and said, "Mama, what is it, Leslie? When I become a man, I'm gonna buy you a big, beautiful home just like this." "Oh, you don't have to do this." I said, "I know, but you didn't have to adopt us either." And you did. And so I'm here with you because of two women. One gave me life, the other one gave me love. God took me out of my biological mother's womb and placed me in the heart of my adopted mother. And because of her example and my love for her and the passion that I felt in my heart, I've got to do something to make her proud. I've got to do something to put myself in position to be able to take care of her. That drove me. Nietzsche said, if you know the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.